Okay, now that we have figured out how to partition our circles into equal shares, we're now going to move to our rectangles. So let's take one rectangle from your rectangles that you cut out earlier, and I want to ask you how you could show me how this rectangle could be partitioned into two equal shares. And there's a couple different ways you could do it. So I want you to pause the video and think, how could I take this rectangle and partition it into two equal shares? And there's a couple ways you can do this. So think about what the couple different ways might be. Then go ahead and start the video again. Okay, so if I take this rectangle and I want to partition it into two equal shares, I can fold it in a couple different ways. I can start by folding it the hamburger way. So I fold the long side across the long side. So it ends up being a short rectangle, almost even looks like a square. So I can open it back up and I can show it with my fold line. I'm going to use my pen now to trace my fold line that I made. So I'm going to take that pen and I'm going to trace my fold line right down that line. I'm going to put my camera down while I'm doing that. Okay, so here's one way that I can show two equal shares. I have this side, and if I fold them on top of each other, I can see they're exactly equal. Okay, then there's a couple other ways I can show this. I can also take a rectangle and I can fold that rectangle the hot dog way, so the long way, so it's top to bottom. I can take that rectangle and fold it so that it is a one long hot dog. I'm going to put my camera down and fold that, and then I'm going to draw my fold line from one side to the other. And this shows that I have a second way to show two equal shares. My top half and my second half are equal shares, and they match up exactly if I fold them on top of each other. Okay, now most of you probably did the hamburger way and the hot dog way, but there's actually another two ways that you can show partitioning a rectangle into two equal shares. So the third way you can show this is by folding the rectangle along the diagonal from one corner across the rectangle to the other corner. So if we figure out how to do this, if you look and if I draw my line across that rectangle, I'm going to do that for you so you can see what it looks like. And you could probably do this as well. You might want to use a straight edge, like a ruler or a side of a journal or something that you can put on your rectangle along the diagonal to make sure your line is straight. But if I take my rectangle and I cut it up across the diagonals, I can see that those two triangles that I made are going to actually be the same equal size. Now, it looks like they're not, but if we do this with our scissors, if you take your scissors and you cut along that diagonal that we made, and you cut your two triangles apart, I'm going to do that. So I just cut my two triangles apart and I just separated them a little bit. Okay, if I take those triangles and I take one of the triangles and I flip it around to be facing in the same direction as my other triangle and I lay them on top of each other, you're going to see that I do actually have two equal shares. Now, here's the thing. You can also do this with your rectangle across the other diagonal. So we did from the left bottom corner to the top right corner. You can also take a rectangle and cut it from the bottom right corner to the top left corner, then flip your triangle around and you'll see that you can also make an equal shares, 2 equal shares this way. So there's actually 4 different ways that you can show how to partition a rectangle into 2 equal shares. Now, if we want to try and partition a rectangle into 3 equal shares, okay, the way that we can do this to separate a rectangle into 3 equal shares, we can do it 2 different ways. So we can separate the rectangle by folding it once the short way, or I guess the hamburger way, and then another time. So we've made kind of a little book here. I'm going to put my camera down so I can make sure to fold that a little bit better. And you have to kind of estimate where your 3 parts are going to be. But if I open it back up, I'm going to draw my lines on my fold lines, and you're going to see 3 equal shares. Okay, I've got 1, 2, 3 equal shares. This is thirds. So we just did halves with our rectangles into 2 equal shares. Now we've done thirds into 3 equal shares. The other way that we can do this with a rectangle is you can fold it the long way, the hot dog way. So this might take a little bit more effort because it's harder to fold them the long way. So I have to fold once, and then I have to fold back over again twice. So it's going to end up being a very skinny hot dog. So I'm going to put my camera down so I can do that. And then if I open up my rectangle, I'm going to use my pen to draw on my fold lines like so. And I've just shown another way to partition a rectangle into 3 equal shares going the hot dog way, making my shares very long. Now, when we get to fourths, you're going to find out that there are lots of different ways that you can partition a rectangle into fourths. You can partition a rectangle into fourths by just folding it in half, the short way, the hamburger way, and then folding it into half again. And if you open up that rectangle, you're going to see 4 equal shares. And I can use my pen to draw my lines in my equal shares. Like so. Now, I'll tell you that there are, let's see, so this is my first way of showing my 4 equal shares, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 other ways that I can show 4 equal shares on my rectangle. 11 other ways. That's a lot of ways. So right now I want you to pause the video and see if you can figure out how to partition a rectangle into a couple other ways to show fourths. Now, if you're not sure, you may have to cut out your parts that you folded or cut apart and turn them around in different directions to see if they lay perfectly on top of each other. If they lay perfectly on top of each other, your parts, and they're the same size, then you've made equal shares. So go ahead and see if you can find 2 or 3 other ways to partition a rectangle into equal shares of fourths.